Who better than Derek, Pat, Andrew, the wrestling crew? Man, they bout to put an end to y'all careers like a finishing move. They bout to give y'all facts on these cats that's fighting on these mats. Y'all can't see them like John Cena. Even if y'all had 20/20 vision, y'all better listen, pay attention, and take notes down, and realize that it's not your time now. And watch these three kings take the crown. Hey, hey.
Combat Zone, the Larry God, DJ Hyde. You guys are listening to the Wrestling IQ 101.
Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of Wrestling IQ 101. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and follow us at WrestlingIQ101.com, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And today I'm sitting with Derek and Pat.
What's up, guys?
Hey, what's up?
And today we are joined by CWC 205 and NXT superstar Sean Maluta. Sean Maluta, how are you, man?
I'm doing good, guys. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you very much.
Sounds good. How everything's good with you?
Everything's cool, man. Just another day. Just trying to be better than yesterday.
Definitely, I hear that, man. We want to start by asking you. You were one of the initial 32 men in the inaugural Cruiserweight Classic. Can you kind of just tell us, like, how did that come about? Like, how did you get the news? How did you get entered into that?
Yeah, well, I've had a couple of years of tryouts now with the WWE, and during the whole tryout process, William Regal is one of the main guys, instrumental in that whole process. And basically, on a good day, he's the man, to be performing in front of, and he's the guy that coaches you and gets you through the whole tryout process. So. It's been a few years of ups and downs. Some tryout matches better than others, but I think specifically in the last 2 years or so, I started building up a good resume with him, and he really it seems like he took a liking to my work, and then it was actually he himself who approached me about the Cruiserweight Classic. I was at the Royal Rumble in Orlando last year, and I was there for a tryout, but I got approached immediately about that. It's just one of those surreal bits of news to get. This is what I've been waiting for my whole life, is opportunities like this. He pretty much told me that there was going to be a bunch of follow-ups. It was expected to go down in June. As the months went on, I started getting more and more excited about it. They started, releasing talent names, and, here I am surrounded by, some of the best talent literally in the world. So it was really cool for me. And, even though I've had many tryouts and done a lot of extra work and stuff like that, I never actually had, a match at all, in a non-tryout setting. So this was going to be, my biggest platform so far. And, it was almost like it was worth the wait, all those years to, kind of debut and come in at, on something as special as the Cruiserweight Classic was. So, that's how it all came about.
On that show, you were the inaugural main event with Kota Ibushi. How was it like facing him?
Oh, man. The reputation that he had going into that thing, recognized as one of the best in the world, a lot of people's favorite to win the whole thing. And I was aware of that. I'm a big fan of Japanese wrestling. I'm a big fan of great talent in general. So I was very well aware of him. And having my first match ever with the company against somebody like that just makes it even more special. He's every bit as good as, people say he is. I can attest to that after being in the ring with him. Just an awesome guy too. Very easy to work with. His style is second to none, and I couldn't have enjoyed it more.
So with Ibushi, there's obviously the language barrier. Does that make it more difficult to call the match, like during the match?
Not really, actually. It was a first for me. I've been, I guess you can say I've been around for a little over 10 years now, but I never, had that opportunity of working with somebody that, had very limited English or no English at all. So, I was just willing to embrace the challenge, and there's something about I don't know if it's a Japanese thing or whatever, but it wasn't as hard as some people would think. I don't know if it's the body movement or just the flow of things. Not a lot of talking sometimes needs to be done, so it wasn't a problem at all.
Yeah, and I mean, since then, you went against other Japanese wrestlers in WWE. You went against Tajiri and Hideo Itami. So, I mean, I guess is that something that they figured, you're good with Japanese wrestlers, they just threw you in, or is it just coincidence?
I don't know. I want to say it was a coincidence, but for me, I was personally loving it. I talked a little bit about my love and respect for Japanese wrestling, and specifically with Hideo Itami at NXT. I feel like I've been watching him forever, and very quickly he became one of my favorites, and he still is one of my favorites of all time. When you talk about the favorites like the Shawn Michaels and Eddie Guerreros that I always bring up, on a non-WWE level, Kenta, Hideo Itami is up there with all of them, and that's just how I see things. So, that match was very special to me. I don't know, maybe I just been lucky to work with some of these top talent that happen to be Japanese, but I was loving every second of it.
Yeah. Now, when it came to Tajiri, because Tajiri, he's like a legend. He's been wrestling for a long time. How did it feel to kind of be in there, with someone who's that much of a veteran? Did it feel different from anyone else that you would wrestle?
I want to say out of all the TV matches that I've had so far, he would probably be the veteran of all of them. The guy with the most experience. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It wasn't any at the time. It wasn't any added pressure. I was just very confident of going in there and doing what I had to do. And that opportunity came the beginning of this year. I was booked as an extra, initially, and the show actually took place in Jacksonville. And I just came to Raw and SmackDown that week, ready for anything, but it wasn't like I was told anything until the day of. So not a lot of time to prepare at all, but if you're confident in your abilities, you just go in and do it, and you roll with anything that's given to you. And it wasn't anything different. It was just very cool because this is a guy that I've been watching since I was a kid. Just like a lot of others. It started in ECW, obviously, and then he very quickly became popular in the WWE. So, I've been watching him forever, and it just makes it that much more cool being in there in the ring with a guy like that.
That's awesome. And then you also got to wrestle Bobby Roode. How was that experience from wrestling a guy from the TNA locker room in the WWE?
It was pretty glorious. No, it was awesome. Another guy that I've watched. I guess in my later years, the recent years, the last couple of years, I don't watch TNA too much, but I was smart. I was in the loop enough to know that he pretty much became a star there. He came from a tag team, and then he just went on and did his own thing. And I think once they gave him the time to develop himself and get on the mic a little bit, I think they realized they had a star on their hands, and I think that's why WWE eventually snatched him up. Very, very, just a pleasure to work with. Very professional, very all business. He doesn't do too much joking around. I kind of like that sometimes. And, he made me feel very, very welcoming, very good. And, just another match with a veteran that I can definitely be proud of.
Now, let's go back to, Sean Maluta as a kid, little Maluta. So when you first started, what kind of inspired you to get into wrestling?
Well, my Uncle Alpha, who's pretty much like a dad to me. Yeah. I've been around him since I was a baby, literally. And obviously, he was, at that time he was still heavy into the game, as far as, he was kind of done in his wrestling career, but, he had his own training center. He had his own company, and when I was really young, he was also managing the head shrinkers, in the WWE. So, it just really stems from my family and being around it all my life. As the years went on, my passion for it just only grew even more. And, I got to a point at a certain age, I just knew that, I didn't want to do anything else. This is what I was happy with. This is what I was, I've been obsessed with since a kid. I was one of those kids that would have to, VHS tape record everything, especially in the Attitude Era years. It was the craziest time as a kid. I can remember going to school and at the height of the Stone Cold and DX days, I had the DX Suck It shirt, and I ended up getting sent home from school because of that. I can't tell you how many crotch chops I was doing and how many middle fingers I was throwing up. Eventually, I got sent home for giving my teacher the middle finger too, because I guess I thought I was stone cold that day. But those little things just show you of how much wrestling meant to me. And then once I was finally, and even beyond that, since my uncle was managing, at the WWE at the time, I actually was able to go to a lot of events as a kid. I've been to some of the first Monday Night Raws ever in the Manhattan Center. And the whole nine, getting to go backstage and, getting to meet the guys. The Ultimate Warrior was my favorite. I think my first favorite ever in the business. And then quickly it became Shawn Michaels after that. And then Shawn Michaels, he just continued to be my favorite wrestler of all time. But I've gotten to experience a lot of cool things as a kid. And, once I was old enough, it was just no doubt that, I was going to pursue this.
What was your favorite HBK match?
Favorite HBK match? I got to go with the Iron Man match with Brett. I just think, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people knock it because it was an hour long, and it could be pretty slow at times, but if you're a fan like me, you just appreciate every second of it, including the mat work and all the holds and the constant build, of the match, with the, getting more into the spots at the end and the false finishes. It was just a work of art to me. And of course, that was Michael's, big moment, his first championship. So, as a kid, I was just going nuts. My hero, finally got his due. And you gotta mention the Undertaker matches with Shawn. You gotta mention the one that he had with Kurt Angle. But if you're asking me to narrow it down to one, it definitely has to be the Iron Man.
So, what were those family reunions like growing up as a kid?
It's great and crazy at the same time. It's such a large family, man, and I'm pretty positive I haven't even met half of my cousins, and that's how big it is. But it's great because the Samoan culture, you know, it's all about family. It's all about the closeness. It's all about you know, getting together as much as possible and you know, enjoying those barbecues or whatever's going on. So it was great. It was a great experience as a kid.
Do you think there's more pressure that comes with the name?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, you know, obviously, you know, I want to be successful like all the others in my family. I mean, I don't think anybody in my family that you know, that's in the wrestling business has not been successful. I think everybody's like, you know, some of us are just coming up and stuff like that, but you know, everybody reached a certain amount of success, and you know, that's Samoan style. It can't be duplicated. But I don't know. I just think it's the pressure I put on myself more than anything to try to, you know, succeed, and my own goals that I set for myself. You know, I don't really compare myself to anybody. I just you know, I just learned and take what I can get from everybody. You know, watching a lot of my family members on TV, you know, was an inspiration, and you know, I try to take a little bit of everything from everybody, and you know, make it my own. But you know, I don't know, man. It's hard to say, but the pressure mainly comes from myself more than living up to anything about the family.
Nice. Now, do you guys, in all family, you know, there's always competition amongst the cousins, the brothers. Do you guys ever have competitions with each other?
Not too much, man, because you know, a lot of them I don't see too often. Okay. You know, the Usos and Roman. You know, I always see them guys when I go to TV or anything like that. But you know, I'm kind of more close to Alpha Junior, Manu. You know, my uncle Alpha. You know, my cousin Lance. There's not really any competition there. It's just all about helping each other out, and you know, wishing the best for everybody.
I wanted to ask you about WXW because you've had some great feuds there and some obscured matches like a first blood match and last man standing, and you had some great feuds with the Beast and Big O and Wildman. Can you talk about your time there and how you developed?
Yeah. In 2010, I made the decision to move from Staten Island, New York, where I'm from, and I moved down here to Clearmont, Florida, right outside of Orlando. My uncle Alpha actually moved down here in, I think it was 2008. He had intentions of retiring, and I think that lasted all about 2 weeks until he pretty much opened shop over here. You know, because he had his training center and he had his company in Pennsylvania, and which you know, his son Samu eventually took over, and it's still going strong up there. But you know, my uncle is all about this business, man. This is what keeps him going, and you know, it wasn't you know, too long until he opened up the training center and his company down here. And for some reason, something told me to you know, to keep training with him and to keep sticking with him. You know, I was kind of, when he left, you know, I was kind of, training here and there with Samu. I was, working some indies here and there, but, I don't know, something just told me to make that move and, you know, to be with him and continue learning under him. And then in turn of that, you know, I pretty much grew up in WXW. I was old enough to wrestle in the later years of it in Pennsylvania, but you know, I really came into my own when, you know, it opened up down here in Florida. And you know, a lot of the guys that I work with, you know, helped me reach, you know, a certain amount of success in the company. And you know, I had to work my way up the ranks just like anybody else. You know, the Cruiserweight title, and then, you know, the television title, and then eventually the world title. Certain shout outs to some of my best opponents there. Like you mentioned, definitely the Beast is one of them. ERA is another. Wildman Rojas is another. Nick Nero. my old partner, who's actually in Evolve now, named Jaka. He came down here a couple times, and we got to mix it up. So, guys like that, were great to work with. And, WXW is my home. It's always going to be my home. And it's definitely the number one place over the years that I've gained my most experience.
So, in 205, does WWE actually have a strict, are they strict about the 205 weight limit?
I'm not really sure, but I know that the Cruiserweight Classic, it was very, very strict. They were making it a point. It didn't matter what country you came from. If you were past 205, you weren't going to be in the tournament. And luckily, everybody made it. I think there was one guy that actually was chopped in at exactly 205. So that was interesting. But I would imagine that they're keeping the same format over there. A lot of the guys that I do see them using on 205, they look like they are 205 or under. You know what I mean? But I'm not too sure the whole specifics of it, but I'm pretty sure they're trying to make it as accurate as possible.
And when you guys first, started the Cruiserweight Classic and you knew you guys were going to be in it, did you guys ever think it would be as big as it turned out to be?
I knew it was going to be big, but not as big as looking at it afterwards. It was I was just humbled to be a part of this all-star list of talent, really. And it's once the announcements of talent started happening, that's when the hype, started getting a little bit more real, and things started feeling a little bit special. But you never know how things are going to turn out until after the fact, really. And I could tell you, it was a week-long process, to make that happen. For the first round to go down. It started with going to the Performance Center and meeting, all the agents and the coaches there, and Triple H himself and stuff like that. That was a cool experience in its own, and that's when things started sinking in. Of how big this is really going to be. The photo shoots and the media, stuff like that. It was the biggest platform that I ever was gonna receive up until that point. So, but of course afterwards, you realize how special it is. I mean, it was pretty much responsible for the whole division coming back to TV. I don't think if the Classic wasn't a success, I don't think you'll be seeing 205 or the Cruiserweights on Raw. So. It's pretty cool to be a part of that, and it was pretty cool to be a part of the first episode ever. Against a guy like Ibushi. But so to answer your question, definitely special leading up to it, but even more special, looking back on it after.
Now, I was at SWF when you got to take on Kid Christian. And the only thing I hate about that match is it came to an end because it was such a classic. Can you tell us how it was wrestling a guy like him?
Yeah, he was a really good kid. He was very humble. He was very excited to work with me. I always get humbled from the guys that obviously I know I was on a WWE network, and I got a bunch of reference matches on there now that. If anybody that has the network, if you watch it regularly, then you probably are familiar with me. But it's always humbling to hear how many guys actually did watch it and enjoy it. And he was one of them. And he was a good kid. He was their Cruiserweight champion. I think he still is. I had a lot of fun there. Shout out to the SWF. Yeah, I definitely would have liked to go a couple more minutes with him. I think we were telling a good story in there. It was back and forth. It was it was pretty athletic at times. We had a pretty low ceiling. I guess that was the only bad part there, or being limited, but it was all good, man. We made the most of it, but yeah, he was good. He was very good to work with.
So you said Regal is the guy that you want to be able to perform in front of, ideally, that he does the recruiting. Like, does he go to these indie shows personally? Does he send guys out? Like, how does this whole recruiting process work, that he calls guys in for tryouts?
I think it was a mix of a lot of different things. I think in my case, WXW was my primary company. I wasn't really working anywhere else in Florida at the time, so I really think that it was based on those few tryout matches alone, where he was he was willing to give me the opportunity. But everybody has a different case. I know, having a lot of international flavor was important. All the countries being represented and things like that. I think the WWE now has a pulse now more than ever about what's going on elsewhere. And a lot of these guys came from Evolve, who ended up working with the WWE to make that happen. And then, some companies like Progress in the UK. I just think, it didn't matter where you were from or what your story was. I just think they just wanted to find the absolute best talent in the world at the time. And I think that was just the focal point. I'm sure that the recruiting process is pretty extensive. I'm sure that they I've seen pictures of William Regal and Canyon, going to other countries and actually recruiting that way. It's not just by tape or YouTube or something. They're actually out there going to these countries. So it was probably an extensive process. I'm sure other guys can speak on that more than me, but I've just been honored to work in front of Regal for a lot of my tryout matches, and I always try to pick his brain, the most that I can, and I think that's why he gave me the opportunity.
So you also got to face Patrick Clark. How was it wrestling him?
Oh, it was fun. It was good. That's actually my most recent match. Yeah. I think it aired about 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was fun, I didn't know too much about him, except that he wasn't tough enough, and he's working his way up in NXT and things like that. I know he was experimenting with some characters and things like that. But it was fun, man. It's another opportunity to go out there and shine on the NXT platform. Working at the Full Sail crowd. Working the Full Sail crowd is really fun and an experience in itself. So it was good.
Now, I've seen it NXT in Brooklyn twice. Can you compare NXT to 205 and the CWC?
Well, 205 is always going to be different because the arenas are a lot larger. Obviously it's filmed right after SmackDown, so wherever SmackDown is, that's where 205 is going to take place. Mm-hmm. So the Cruiserweight Classic and NXT and stuff like that. Obviously that's it's usually always at Full Sail. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's a lot of the same people. But the atmosphere is really incredible in there. The fans make that place special, and even though it might fit, maybe only a couple hundred people, they know exactly what they want, out of the show, and they're going to be honest with you. That they're going to react if they like something, and they're going to tell you if they don't like something. So it's always cool working there, but 205 is when you really get into the larger arenas. It could be anywhere that where SmackDown is. It could be even out of the country. So the atmosphere and the feel is always going to be different, as far as that goes.
Now, when you were coming up and you had first started wrestling and training, can you kind of tell us about a specific interaction when you met Stone Cold at WrestleMania 23 and kind of the words of inspiration that he gave you?
Yeah, well, WrestleMania 23, that was the weekend that my Uncle Alpha was getting inducted in the Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. And it was the first WrestleMania that I've gone to since WrestleMania 10. And WrestleMania 10, I was just, I guess you could say I was still kind of a baby. I was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old. And actually maybe younger than that. Probably around 4 years old. But, it's hard to remember at such a young age like that. Yeah. But, WrestleMania 23, it was my first time being around the guys again in a very long time. And, obviously, on those weekends, you can catch just about anybody, all the guys, past or present. And it was cool because Stone Cold was actually, the night that I met him, he was having a movie premiere at the same location that the Hall of Fame was going to be at. It was the night before the Hall of Fame, and pretty much all the wrestlers from top to bottom came out, and all their families to watch Stone Cold's first movie. I think it was called the Condemned. Yeah. And so I thought it was a good movie. I was having fun. I was just happy to be there, that kind of thing. And then I think we went back to the hotel. We go down to the little bar area or restaurant area, and I was still kind of young, so I think I was just getting my feet wet, as far as a wrestler goes. I think I was only like a year or two in, but my uncle knew what such a fan I was of Austin, and he made that connection happen. Took me over, introduced me to him, and my uncle starts, immediately putting me over, even though I was probably so inexperienced and still a baby at the time. But, he was talking about, yeah, Steve, you got to see my boy. He's a tiger in there, And then, Austin was just joking with me, talking about, he was like, well, damn, son, if my knees were good, maybe one day at WrestleMania it'd be me and you. And it was just one of those like feel good moments. Like still as a kid, I don't know. It was just weird and kind of surreal. He was talking to me as a wrestler, but I'm still marking out in my head at the same time. So I don't know. It was really cool, man. It didn't go any further than that, really. It was just a little quick meeting. I think I told him, I enjoyed the movie, that kind of thing. He thanked me. But it was my first experience, getting to talk to somebody like that on the inside, So my Uncle Alpha made that happen for me, and it was probably, it's definitely one of the coolest experiences I've ever had when I've gone to WrestleMania.
So I just wanted to ask you about another particular moment. Is during the Ibushi match, and it's now like become infamous on the internet when you made the dive over the rope and you did like 3 flips. Like, how did that happen?
Man, should I tell you the truth or not?
Yeah, go into it. I want to know the details.
No, man. There was nothing to it. It was just an early jump. I've done that dive, about 100 times. I've never come from the turnbuckle like I was in that match. I don't know. I guess maybe I was looking at the entrance and the way that the entrance was set up. I kind of positioned myself in a different way that I normally wouldn't. And that's really all it was. It was an early jump. It was interesting because, the reaction, I didn't know anything at the time. I just kept going, and I think the match only really got better from there. But I didn't know until the match aired that they were going to replay play it, and then they were gonna use it as a part of the story. You know, that I was willing to take any chance possible to try to take this guy out. But it was nothing to it. You know, it was just an early jump. You know, I'm happy I was able to somewhat recover and you know, and at least make it watchable, I guess. But you know, it all depends on the person. You know, the person's opinion. Some people said, "Oh man, what a screw up that was," or some people said, "You know, that was cool as hell."
Yeah, I thought it was
you know, how the hell did he do that? That kind of thing. So you know, it happens, but it was cool.
So your family, the Usos and Roman Reigns, are there. I was wondering if there was ever to be an 8-man tag where you can join up with them. Who would be your dream opponents, either current or past?
Oh, that's a good one. An 8-man you're talking about?
Yeah, you got the team with them.
Man. I mean, I guess naturally I would pick my, you know, 4 of my favorite wrestlers, you know. I don't know. Since you put me on the spot, I'm just going to react quick. I'm going to go with Hideo Itami.
Okay.
I'm going to, and this match might not even make sense, but let's go Hideo Itami, Shawn Michaels. If it's the past included, Eddie Guerrero.
Okay.
And let's see. Let's throw in AJ Styles.
Oh, that's great.
Nice.
And then my flip question is, if you had a big family, if you had to pick a stable, who would be the first kind of guys you pick from their family?
You talk about a stable from my family?
Yeah. If you were starting like your own faction, who would be some of the guys you pick?
I would definitely have my Uncle Alpha. I would give him a managing role again, like he used to. The great Samu. For some reason, he's always been one of my favorites to watch. You know, in the family. Let's go with Alpha Jr. and let's throw the Usos in there.
Nice. No Rikishi?
You know, Rikishi too. You know, I'm a big fan of the Samoan SWAT team.
Yeah, man.
And the head shrinker run and all that good stuff. Yeah, I would throw him in there too. You know, as long as I got the numbers to play with.
Man, one of my favorite was Umaga.
Oh yes, you know, shout out to Umaga up in heaven, man. He was holding it down for the family for a long time, and I think he brought that savageness, you know, back to you know, that Samoan type of character, and you know, he offered me you know, some words of encouragement before he passed. You know, I was just you know, starting to work some shows and things like that. Definitely very missed.
Now, do you think, like, you know, being in a family like yours, that makes you more prepared when you enter into wrestling as compared to someone who wouldn't be in a family like that?
That's hard to say. I think it depends all about the person, but you know, I just think that it's definitely to my benefit that I've been around it since I was a baby, and I've got to see a lot of the inside and the outside. You know, a lot of times when you're growing up, you know, all you see is what you see on TV. But you know, I actually got to go in the locker rooms, you know, when I was young, and then my uncle having his own company. You know, I got to see how. You know, how the booking worked, how dealing with talent worked, how and even when I was training, you know, when I was a teenager, you know, I started doing a lot of camera work. I was actually the ringside cameraman for all of our WXW shows. You know, I had to wait till I turned 18 to start legally wrestling in Pennsylvania. Even though I begged my uncle to work under a mask for about 4 years, but he wasn't letting that go down. He probably, he would have got in trouble if they found out. But I got to do a lot of inside stuff like that, even messing around on the computer with the editing software, and putting. At one point, I was helping putting our little hour TV shows together. WXW was on local TV back in the day in Pennsylvania, and I got to actually get familiar enough with the editing software on the computer, where I was literally creating the TV shows. And in turn of doing that, I had to watch a lot of the matches like a million times, and putting camera angles together. So when you're watching things that much, you're constantly rewinding and fast forwarding, but you're also seeing how people work and how moves are put together. People's animations and footwork and body language, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I guess you can do that. I guess you can do it too, just from watching, and if you're really into studying the business like that. But I've got to experience a lot of ins and outs like that, and I think it only made me more prepared and smarter when it was my turn, to get in the ring and do all that stuff.
Do you think the way that you've been booked so far, because you've had a lot of marquee matchups, but you've been on the losing end, do you think that'll hurt you when you do get signed by WWE?
I don't think it'll hurt me at all. I think I don't, unless you're into wins and losses like that. I don't think it would hurt me. Obviously, the fact of the matter is I'm not going to win it. Too many matches if I'm just coming in and I'm unsigned. But I don't think it hurts at all. I just control what I can control, and that's my own performance. That's I try to get better every time I go back there, or show something different every time I go back there. I just want to just help myself succeed, and the wins and losses. I mean, I get a lot of tweets. Like a lot of people thought I was going to win the match with Patrick Clark the other week, because I guess Patrick was just he was just coming. I guess he's been in and out of TV, and people thought it was finally my time to get one. On a guy like that, I guess, who's not too established yet. And then obviously it didn't happen, but I don't know. It's not something that I really look into. I just know that if I'm there full time, more opportunities are going to come for stuff like that. But right now, man, I'm just having a blast, working with a lot of guys that I either grew up watching, or that I highly respect, from the business.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you mentioned Eddie Guerrero a little bit ago, and so I was just wondering, who do you think would be able to elevate themselves like he did from the Cruiserweight division, from the Cruiserweight Classic?
Well, I think the guys that have worked there outside of the Cruiserweight division, like the obvious ones like Neville and Austin Aries, I think eventually they'll break out. I think they're in the position they're in to kind of kickstart the whole division, and make it go a little bit, and they're a lot more recognizable than a lot of other guys, and they're a good representation of the show right now, which is why they're the ones that got the WrestleMania match. So I would say them, but out of the other cruiserweights, I could see Jack Gallagher breaking out and doing some things. Who else? I think T.J. Perkins will eventually. There's only so many times that you can go after the cruiserweight title or be the champion. So I think it's bound to happen for a lot of guys. But I can, off the top of my head, I can definitely see Gallagher and and TJ making that jump.
And when you were training, when you were, in your early teens, and you said you wanted to, wrestle, but, the law said you couldn't. Do you think, teenagers, if they're ready, they should be able to wrestle, or do you think it's good for them to wait? Because I kind of thought of, Kid Christian, how he's younger now. I believe he's 17 right now, and he's wrestling. Do you think, it's good for something and he's amazing, by the way. But do you think it's good to wait, or if they're ready to go, they should be able to go?
I think if you're ready to go, you should go. Because a lot of guys, take pride in that, starting so early. I think Rey Mysterio started when he was 13. Yeah. Whether it was in Mexico or not, and he's gone on to be one of the greatest of all time. I just think that sometimes it might take a while for you to grow up and mature a little bit, as a man or a woman. I think if you got the talent and you're a quick learner and you're coachable, I think age isn't doesn't really matter. But a lot of times when you're that young, if you're too young, you got a lot of growing up to do. Maybe your body, might be a little bit behind because you are young, and we all know that you have to have some kind of body to be in the business. I'm not saying muscle wise or anything like that, but you can't be if you're 15 or 16, I think you have to have definitely be working on putting a little bit of size on you, because it's still a big man sport. And like for example, for me, I started when I was 14, and as much as I've always been in the ring all my life, when I started taking those first few bumps, man, I thought I was gonna die. It's a lot of abuse on the body, especially at a young age. I pretty much had no choice but to get in the gym and put some size on to kind of absorb, a lot of the pain that I was taking, and it definitely did help. So, I think, and that's just nitpicking or, getting into specifics, but, bottom line, if you got the talent and you got the will and other people see that, I don't think age should matter.
Now, you also got to team up with Daivari against the Bollywood Boys. How was that, wrestling in a tag team match for WWE?
It was really cool because, technically speaking, I worked all the Cruiserweight Classic tapings. I was eliminated in the first round, obviously, but then, I guess, me living in Orlando, that gave me an opportunity to be called back and to work some of these dark matches and things like that. So I actually worked with the Bollywoods twice. It was two separate occasions, two separate tapings. One was with Daivari, and the other was with a guy named Martin Stone. And then I even got to wrestle TM61, and a random dark match. Mustafa Ali was my tag team partner, and that was before a Cruiserweight Classic taping. So I'm definitely always happy to be called and to be used for that. The Bollywood ended up getting signed soon after. I'm happy for them. It was another chance for me to work in front of the Full Sail crowd. That's always good. Getting familiar with the people. So all in all, it was good stuff.
Now, you've had a catchphrase in WXW, "All Eyes on Me." How'd that come about?
How the hell did it come about?
I like it. I thought that was pretty cool. I think you should keep that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I guess I always liked the saying, and I always, I'm a big Tupac fan. Obviously, All Eyes on Me. That was some of his best work. I just think. Well, bottom line is, I think I was, put here to perform, and in turn, the spotlight is what I've always. It's what I was always aiming for. I've been around enough shows in my life to know, what I want. The feeling. The feeling of captivating people, and and the whole performance side of things, and this stems from I have a pretty strong karate background of taekwondo, and I got my first taste of performing because I was on the demonstration team, and we would go around different places in New York and Jersey and Connecticut, and actually put on these little half-hour shows for people, doing a whole bunch of karate stuff, different drills, different forms, stuff like that. So that kind of was my first taste of having people watch me, that kind of thing. And then, obviously wrestling, you're always striving for the biggest platform you can get to be seen. So, I don't know. I just think that it worked with me. I ended up liking it so much, I actually tattooed it on my back. And, it's just something cool, that I was running with. It actually played into my characters, I would do different things in WXW. Sometimes I'd be a heel, and my delivery with it would be different, or I can go the babyface route and express it in a more humble way. But I think at the end of the day, man, it's the combination of always wanting to be a performer and having all eyes on you, and definitely the influence of Tupac. So that's where it came about.
You mentioned you're a fan of Tupac, and you're from Staten Island. It says Shaolin on your gear, but why don't you have RZA doing your music?
That's a good question, but the Wu-Tang, I grew up on them. I didn't really start mentioning where I was from until maybe the last few years, and I realized that nobody's really brought that flavor to the ring before. As far as I don't know. I just feel like it's sometimes hip hop and wrestling it's a cool thing when they combine, when they come together. I think a lot of fans can relate to that. I think there's a lot of Wu-Tang fans out there that aren't from New York or things like that. And it's all about being proud of where you're from. And so the last few years, I decided to make that a part of me now. I wear it on my tights and stuff like that. Who knows? Maybe I make it full time one day, and I can make that entrance music happen.
Yeah, man, you got it.
So, who would be your dream match, either current roster or even past? Just a one-on-one match.
Man, I gotta go back to my favorite. They're my favorites for a reason.
Yeah.
And obviously it's because you like the way that they do things. You like their style. You like what they bring to the table. And for me, Shawn Michaels was all of that wrapped in one. To be a smaller, quote unquote, smaller guy, and to go in and go toe to toe with literally anybody. He can tear it down with the giants. He can tear it down with, the technicians like Brett. He can just work with anybody. He had that little bit of a flash to his style with the moonsaults and the elbow drops. He was, he still is. He's my favorite wrestler of all time. So, how can I not say him? Hideo Itami, it's not a joke, man. That my level of respect for him, he's up there with all those guys in his own different, unique way. So I'm happy I've gotten to have that match, but, being in the ring with him only made me want to have the rematch, even more. So, I'm hoping I have another chance to work with him down the line. So, I guess it's cool to already have a match like that under me, and it was my first NXT match ever. So, I'm just happy I was able to accomplish one of those dream matches. But I'll definitely say Shawn Michaels for sure. And if you're asking me another one, I got to go with Eddie Guerrero too.
So, Sean Maluta, where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at SavatKick. You can find me on Instagram, the same thing, at SavatKick. Facebook, Sean Maluta. I'm out there on YouTube. I'm going to be doing some, expanding throughout the country this year. I'm headed to California for the first time in June. I'll be going to Ohio next month, North Carolina, things like that. I'm looking for more opportunities, and I'm looking to get a lot of work and, to keep going. And, definitely check me out on the social media, to stay up to date with all that.
And also you could find Sean Maluta on the WWE Network all the time, anytime you want. And for us, you can follow Wrestling IQ 101 at WrestlingIQ101.com, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Thanks for being a guest, and we'll see you soon.